More often than not these days, the working filmmaker is asked to perform in less than desirable shooting situations. Oftentimes, you're not given enough space, enough personnel, enough time, any permits. There's a whole list of things that can change or go wrong or be pulled out from underneath you as a single operator. And with that in mind, I've gone from set to set, adding and subtracting and modifying a set of shooting ideas and a small rig that I think I've kind of perfected at this point. So I figured I'd share it with you, the audience at home, and the curious filmmaker, because maybe, by chance, my perspective is useful to you. So, the question that's always banging around in my head is, how can I apply a cinematic mindset to a documentary practicality? That is to say, how can I achieve pure cinema whilst also having the executional speed of someone who is grab and go, just a one-camera solution to a multi-person problem. Obviously, that'll never happen, but how close can you get? That's always something that I've kind of worked on. So over the past 2 years, like I said, I've kind of been modifying a rig and a set of thoughts to tackle that. So cinematic mindset. In my opinion, it can be practically summed up in 4 things. Stability, so tripod, dolly, crane, whatever. Perfect focus. Perfect sound, layered, atmospheric, exactly what you're supposed to hear, nothing you're not, and considered lit image, frame, lens choice, that sort of thing. Everything is controlled in a cinematic image. Also, more on the theory end, your story is the most important thing. You hear this all the time, but I don't think it's focused on enough. There's no point in having the camera or the lighting or the microphone if you don't have a good story. So just getting equipment in the hopes that it'll enhance a non-existent story self-limits. And that's why I challenge you to write a lot more. I also challenge you to figure out how to write on the go. Head out to your local busiest street and see if you can't make a story, just like a 1-minute, 2-minute story right there with no prep. See if you can't craft a story like that. And if you can get really good at that, then if you have the equipment, the good equipment, in any situation, you'll be killing it, right? So that's my early advice. Documentary practicality. Battery life forever, file space forever, all of the focal lengths that you want with the ability to be wide open, the ability to boost ISO into Never Never Land, the ability to add and subtract ND on the fly, sound that is unobtrusive but gets everything. So giant-ass boom poles might get you the best sound, but may, in certain situations, be too intrusive. Same thing with your camera rig. A huge camera looks really cool, but if you're in a situation where you don't want people to know that you're there, you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself, like me, in the middle of these massive crowds of college kids where all they want to do is put their face in front of the lens, you want to kind of pare it down a little bit. Focus assist, exposure assist, basically all sorts of redundancies and little mechanical assistants that can take over when you need to focus on something else. So, in execution, what does that look like? Well, for me, that looks like this. This is a Canon C100mkII in an Ultra Cage Black by Red Rock Micro with their micro remote and finger wheel focus mechanism, as well as an Odyssey 7Q Plus. In my opinion, this is one of the better, more efficient shooting setups that you could have, which is why I have it. Let's get into why. I picked the Canon for a couple reasons. One, it's a C300 sensor. It just saves to SD cards in 1080. I'm fine with that. I don't need 4K. Do need to have your exposure pretty much spot on as well as your framing, but coming from a film background, I'm used to that, not a problem. 12 stops, 13-ish stops of dynamic range. Great color space, which I've modified quite extensively to great result. Love the Canon sensor. And I never used to, so it's nice to switch. The lens, this is a Sigma 18-35 lens. Like I said in a video you never saw, most of the films that I like happen to be lensed between 15 and 40 millimeters. So 18-35, if I'm sort of giving myself a cinematic governor, shooting 18 to 35 is fine by me. If I really need to, I pop on a 50, but honestly, I never really find myself needing to do that in most scenarios. Every once in a while, you got to shoot long, but that's for B-roll. The focus system is nice because I can operate it manually as a single operator, as the subject of the video here would suggest. But if needed, I can pass off the monitor as a focus monitor and a wireless focus wheel from Red Rock, which communicates with that. And they can pull focus over there, and I can just use this little monitor for framing. Now, as you can see, I'm holding it with the camera strap handle and this handle up through the top here, and that gives a floating weight. I'm not holding something up, it's hanging. So it's much smoother to walk around with. I've also got the top handle up in my chest, sort of in a shooting position, like with a rifle. And this creates a very stable image, both standing still and walking. The reason I do it this way is because, especially in a place like LA where you have to have a permit to put down sticks, it's difficult to put down sticks. Sometimes you can get away with a monopod, but in general, this is nice, especially because there's multiple shooting platforms that you could use. This is just a kickstand because it's kind of front heavy, but it's also a nice little handle. This whole system is pretty light, which is another nice thing. The Odyssey 7Q Plus is great because A, bigger monitor, able to focus better, records to kind of faux 10-bit 422 ProRes files onto these little hard drives. You get about 4 hours of footage out of those, as opposed to the 11 hours I could get on a 128 SD card. Really, with this camera at least, the difference between the Odyssey files and the camera files are kind of negligible, but for something like green screening, for instance, huge help. So that's that. It's also got false color, which is a godsend, and some focus assist and other things like that. But it's nice to just have a big old pretty image right in front of you. You can load LUTs onto it for like kind of a final image vibe if you need that. And this feels kind of compact. As you can see, if you're looking from behind, it's a very slim profile. It's very difficult to, I mean, it's obvious that I'm rolling around with a camera, but it's just nice to be compact and kind of in my own little world where I'm not drawing too much attention to myself. That being said, sometimes this does draw a lot of attention, or I don't need the monitor, or something like that. It's easy to just take off the monitor, but the way I've built this setup is kind of cool in that all I need to do is swap out these top handles out of the Ultra Cage. So all I do is just pull that out. That goes away. That's my focus monitor and handle. You basically end up with this. This is the exact same functionality of the previous system, except no focus wheel, so you're going to be having to use this guy. I have a little gear here attached to my focus that I can use this extending knob to focus while I'm running around with this handle without imparting too much movement into the camera. I have another one set here for zoom. But you're still got the cage, so you can power the camera still or any other accessories. Those V-Log batteries that I use have a USB out on the side, so while you've got it in your pocket running the camera, you can be charging your phone or extra batteries for an action cam or whatever. I do recommend getting a big old poofy so you can put lenses and batteries and all sorts of crazy stuff in there if you need. From this configuration, you can be really tight and get into those scenarios where those college kids are trying to throw beers at you, or Waka Flocka wants to hit you in the head with a beach ball. Again, same lens, I have an always on filter, same camera, same everything, basically same image without that big monitor, so you don't have to worry about that. You can even, if you wanted, get this. Now, this is a wooden camera top plate, but this is just as an example. The Scout cage for an A7S or whatever kind of rig setup where you can put a cheese plate on top of your camera. You get a peg, you get this little Red Rock L rod Hubbard You put that on, tighten her down, put your handle on there, and there you go, right? Make sense? In any case, the idea there is that you can constantly move and be stable without the use of a gimbal, because I feel like the gimbal is like a condom. It kind of ruins the feeling. If you've got control of the camera, you can point it exactly where it needs to, you can frame it exactly where it needs to. Whereas with these gimbals, the gimbal kind of chooses where you're pointing, and oftentimes it's not exactly where you want it, or the movement isn't fast enough. So I like being handheld with something like this, or alternatively, this rig. Obviously, it's my favorite. Your favorite way is gonna be different. That's the beauty of art. Everyone's got a different set of tools to achieve similar ends. This is the setup that I recommend for the run and gun shooter. Pretty much everything for Owlbot Season 1 is going to be shot or has been shot with this setup, so no need to ask in the future. And we'll see you next week.